Here's our buddy, our newest beat reporter, insider, Arizona Cardinal team reporter, Mr. Craig Morgan here of PHNX Cardinals. His most recent banger of an article, a healthy, happy Kyler Murray is cause for optimism, is live right now. Go PHNX.com. Craig, how we living, my friend?
More importantly, how are you living, Johnny? Because you just got back from Hawaii, and I hear reports that you have moved into a gated community as well. So
Well, we
you
don't
are
need to be
living
sharing
large
that
right
on
now.
this broadcast now. We're doing all right. We're doing okay. Your boy's doing fine. I did lose my Shady Rays to the ocean. I broke down that story yesterday, so I've since used our bonus code to order a new pair. But I spent this morning reading your article about 1K1, and I thought it was interesting. You know, Bo mentioned earlier in the show Kyler Murray having the sense of comfort that he has not had really since Oklahoma, and it's really poetic. It's like, okay, Oklahoma has their act together with Lincoln Riley. Then he comes to Arizona with maybe some not great people in charge, and it's taken upwards of 4 to 5 years, and now he feels that comfort level again. Oh, I wonder what's changed. Maybe it's the people around him.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, not just the personnel, but of course the relationship with the coach, with the GM. All of that matters. You hear a lot of optimism this time of year, right? I said this in the story. You get that from just about every team every year, and you're like, okay, yeah, I've heard this 100 times before, but what about this, and this? You listened to Kyler talk yesterday. Bo was there. We talked about it after that session, and I think everybody in that room came away like, wow, that was different. It felt different. It felt like a mature guy talking, a guy who had been through some shit in his first few seasons in the NFL. And now he's seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. He's seeing what it can be. And he's learned so much from all that adversity, really. It just sounded like a different person. And again, these are just words, but it did feel different. And then when you talk about the people around him having changed, I don't think optimism is unwarranted at this point for this team. I think it is warranted.
So, I mean, in your opinion, what do you think would be fair for, this franchise quarterback, that big money extension now kind of kicking in? It's the first year of that deal from the previous regime. Like, I don't think it's unfair to put, in a second year of a rebuild, high expectations on this team and their quarterback.
Especially in this league, right? We've seen this happen so many times with teams. It's not like, listen, I just got through covering, I don't know what that was with the Arizona Coyotes, but it was perpetual rebuild. But it doesn't take long in the NFL's. If you get some key things right, we've seen a lot of quick turnarounds in this league. As we talked about a little earlier, Bo, the margins in this league are so small. It just takes a couple plays or a couple changes in personnel, and you can go from a 4-win team to suddenly being a wild card team. I don't think it's crazy at all to talk about that with the Arizona Cardinals this season, particularly with the pieces they've added on offense.
Craig, you covered this team in much of Larry Fitzgerald's heyday, but
Thanks for making me feel old, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I'm here to do that.
Craig, you were here with Buddy Ryan, right?
Yeah. Tell him he's got say has 30 years experience.
Let's talk about Don Coryell. Who else can we bring up? Jim Hart? No, Larry Fitzgerald is the standard. And I think we look back, though, and we forget, and like Larry's admitted this, early on in his career, albeit at receiver, he was concerned about other things like, hey, Kurt Warner, get me so many yards in a game. Like, he's admitted that, right? Yet with Kyler Murray, everybody was quick to jump on this kid. And I emphasize kid who's drafted by an organization that has never won consistently before, who immediately makes them relevant. But all we want to do, like I bring it up all the time, Craig, Bo and I were on Super Bowl Radio Row last year. And everybody here locally in the Valley and everybody externally wanted to take a shot at somebody who just blown up their knee after playing in a playoff game the year before. Yeah. Like, I just feel like Kyler Murray, for whatever reason, is not given the kind of grace that other professional athletes are given within this market. And we have a very select memory with that. And I wonder, you've been around this market for a long time to be able to dissect every kind of different era, not only of Cardinal football, but Arizona sports. Like, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Jody Ayler about this earlier. You can't think of another guy who's been under the microscope like this. And I think there are a lot of factors behind it, right? Social media wasn't around, as you mentioned, indelicately before, Johnny, when I was covering the team previously. I just think the glut of media covering the NFL right now, the expectations, just just the constant microscope. There's so many narratives out there, and I think it was Kyler himself, Bo, that said it the other day. You nitpick everything, right? You can build all these narratives. I'm not sure if it's fair that early in a player's career. Yeah, he had a catastrophic knee injury, but what about what it looked like his trajectory was before that? We remember those first few seasons. This guy was the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, right? He showed some great promise early on, and there were a lot of factors outside of his control that might have derailed that temporarily. But it's not like we're talking about a guy who's been in the league 10 years now where we can say, yeah, you know what? It's over for Kyler Murray. Move on. He's coming into his prime now, and he finally has the pieces around him, the health, the peace of mind, the maturity to maybe put this all together.
Yeah, I mean, you have a ton of great quotes from his availability yesterday. I thought one of the ones that stood out was when he was answering Darren Urban, and he pretty much opened it with, it's just the natural maturation of things, right? And I think that that's key for Kyler Murray, that people just completely just disregarded when he's in his early 20s and he's coming off, being in one of the best football programs in the country, goes #1 overall. And he brings his immense skill set to an organization that now we're seeing was in complete disarray, and he was still able to accomplish those things. But along the way, through all that, through the trials, through the adversity, it looks like he's really kind of developed, as many people do, and some people don't, but into a pretty mature, budding leader.
It's funny how that works, right? You go through some adversity in your life, you actually mature. You actually learn things. You actually get better at your job. I know there's such great expectations placed on these players these days, right? It's insane what's expected of a player immediately. If you step into the right situation, like a Patrick Mahomes, sure, you can have instant success, but he didn't have that situation here. Let the guy mature. Let the guy grow into it. We're nowhere near the point where you're ready to say, yeah, Kyler Murray is not going to be the guy you move. I had someone in my Twitter mentions today saying it's time to move on. They should have moved on from him already. Well, how can you make that judgment based on what has been here? Yeah, here we go. It's nice to have that, I got to admit, some sort of expectations about the team I'm covering.
That's interesting, because I do want to ask you this, because you have fresh eyes on this team, and I think that's one of the best things that you're going to bring to not only the Go PHNX articles that you write, but this beat in general. And you've been out to a handful of practices. You've witnessed with your own eyes this team, which has come a long way, Craig, from last year to this year in such a short time. We just broke down the offensive improvements that they've had. Has there been a player that has stood out to you, maybe outside of the usual cast of characters? Let's put Marvin and K1 off to the side for a second. Has there been a guy that stood out to you? You're like, holy shit, who is that? He's impressive, that you're anxious to watch on football Sundays this fall?
I don't want to disappoint you with this answer, but I don't take a lot away from OTAs. I have to be honest. Guys are running around without pads on. I want to wait at least till camp before I can give you an answer, but I will give you an answer to that. I promise. Eventually. What I will say, and Bo and I have talked about this as well, as a beat reporter, we're pretty simple people, actually. We have very few needs.
Very simple, yes.
We have very few needs, and one of those is just hoping, of course, for access and hoping for good quotes. There are so many good personalities on this team. That's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to diving into the stories behind some of these players, because they seem open to it, and that's a great situation to be as a beat writer.
What we're one of just get back to Kyler. One last question about that, and I highly encourage everybody to check out the article, gophnx.com. As far as one of the many quotes that he made, what did you take as one of the more genuine and ones that kind of made you feel like you did when you wrote that story, that the reason for optimism might be more legit than, having somebody win a press conference like he did yesterday?
It's hard, Bo. We were talking about this. It's hard to settle on one. He was just so introspective and candid throughout that interview. It was the big picture, really. It was the entire process. When I was sitting there listening to him, there were some great quotes, and I think those are in the story, but you get a feel for through body language. You get a feel for the answers that he's giving, how much thought he's putting into them. He just sounded like a really mature guy, and a guy who's ready to take that next step. Again, you can't do that without the pieces around him that you guys have talked about, whether it's personnel, whether it's the relationship with Jonathan Gannon. A lot of things have to come into place before a quarterback can have success in this league. And there's so much weight on the quarterback's shoulders in this league, of course. But he just sounds like he's thought about it. He's been through it. He's ready. He understands the process now. He understands the ways it can fail. He understands all the crap that can be coming at him. He's learned from it, and he's ready to move on. He's excited. He felt energetic. He really felt reinvigorated yesterday when we talked to him.
It's what you want to see. I mean, we've come a long way from him not speaking with Cliff Kingsbury throughout the first 3 months of the 2022 NFL season. He's Craig Morgan, our new fabulous beat reporter here on PHNX Cardinals. Craig, we're fired up to have you over the course of the summer into training camp. And again, I can't wait to get your opinion on this group, because what Bo and I have been slumming through, and the PHNX Cardinal faithful, with some of these games. I mean, we won 8 games in 2 years, and now it feels like the rebuild hopefully is coming to a rest. I want to get you out of here on this question, though. We had everything to go down with the Coyotes. Very unfortunate, right? The Suns underperformed. Diamondbacks are in a rut right now. How much does the Valley need the Arizona Cardinals to step up from a sports perspective?
Big time. Like when I look at, like the Coyotes are gone, so you can't count on them at all anymore. The Diamondbacks, I don't know what's going to happen with the Diamondbacks yet. They got to get healthy. They have a good month with their schedule, so they might be able to, they might be able to recapture it. I don't want to say this to Suns fans, but we might be a year away from a full rebuild with this unit. I already think that window's closed. Some of the people around this team don't want to hear that. So when I think of teams that are definitely on an upward trajectory, and you combine that with just the media circus, the attention that is always on the NFL, it's king. It's king in most markets. This team has a real opportunity to capture the Valley's imagination. And this market needs it desperately, because what have we had in the past? What have we had to date, guys? Not much.
Johnny, Craig's already had a great moment in the press room. You're humbly, introducing yourself back to the Cardinals media room and its new staff and players and coaches alike. But who was it, the player that kind of turned your question back on you, and you were like,
oh no,
was that Paris Johnson Jr.? You asked him a question, and he said, well, what do you think? And you said, well, people don't care what I think.
And that's the truth. And I want to make that part clear, by the way, coming onto this beat. Nobody cares what I think just yet. So
that's not true at all.
Don't say it. I'm going to write stories. I'm going to do what I do, but it's going to take me a while to get up to speed. In the meantime, I'm going to be riding these two guys' coattails, because you guys have built an unbelievable following on the show. So really, really happy to be a part of this.